What's going on, guys? It's ETA Prime back here again. Today I wanted to take a look at some PC games running on this $120 Black Friday special laptop. Now you can pick one of these up from Best Buy or Amazon, but on Amazon I think they're $134. But if you do have a Best Buy locally, after tax you can pick one up for about $128, and in my opinion it's actually an awesome little notebook for 120 bucks. In my last video, I tested out some emulators on this thing, and it actually handles PSP, Dreamcast, and GameCube fairly well for the price. In that video, I did mention that this does come pre-installed with Windows 10 S. All I did was wipe it and throw Windows 10 on it. It automatically activated itself, and I'm good to go. I can install anything I want on here. Before I move on to the testing, I just want to kind of go over the specs real quick. This is the VivoBook E203 For the CPU, we have the dual-core Intel Celeron N4000. It will turbo up to 2.6 gigahertz. This version here is really lacking in the RAM department. We only have 2 gigabytes of DDR4 2400 megahertz RAM, and it is soldered to the board. There is a 4 gigabyte option, but the unit is about $75 more. The screen is 11.6 inches, 1366 by 768 resolution. It's just a very basic LCD backlit screen. 32 gigabytes of onboard storage, but you can expand it using an SD card or USB. It's got 802.11a, B, G, N, and AC Wi-Fi, and I'm really surprised at how well this Wi-Fi works in this little notebook. Bluetooth 4.0, full-size HDMI. It does do 4K 60 Hz out, and I have tested 4K YouTube content and native 4K playback. It works fine. Another quick side note, you can run Linux on here. You can actually run Android x86, you could run Recalbox, Batocera. There's a bunch of different operating systems that you could install on here or run from a USB drive. You don't just have to use Windows. Alright, with all of that out of the way, as you can see by the specs, this thing is not a high-end laptop. It's a very low-end laptop, and that's why they're $119 at Best Buy on sale. So if you're interested in something like this, I'm going to leave links in the description. Let's go ahead, see how this thing performs. I'm going to be capturing the screen from a separate PC. It's running into my Elgato HD60. All of the games you're about to see tested will be running at 1280 by 720 all low settings unless otherwise noted. I do have the CPU temperature, the CPU usage, the RAM usage, the FPS, the minimum FPS, and the average FPS listed on screen. Mainly, I'm going to be worrying about the average FPS. You will see dips lower than the average. Sometimes it happens in menus and I didn't reset the counter.
Reloading!
Another thing to note is this actually looks really good on the laptop screen. Even though it's 720p, the laptop screen is so condensed, it looks really crisp on there, but when you try to stretch it out on a bigger screen, it does look more pixelated. Counter-Strike, 720p, average FPS, 77. If you turn vertical sync on, you could get a constant 60 FPS out of this game. You might see some screen tearing in a lot of these games that I'm testing. I don't have vertical sync on. If you turn it on, it's going to completely fix that.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Here's Dead Cells. Unfortunately, my game capture would not capture the sound. It just didn't record it for some reason. It was coming out of the TV speakers and I didn't notice it until I was totally finished here. There's no settings in this game. You can turn like pixelated text on, that's about it. I was surprised when I saw it running this well. We're getting an average of 40 to 41. Now this game is ideal at 60, but you could always play this at 30 FPS and have a great time. It's just a super fun game. This is the original Skyrim, 720p, all low settings, and my game capture would not record the sound on this game either. If you put this at 4:3, lowered the resolution, you could get a constant 30 FPS out of it. Is it playable like that? To some people it might be. When I was younger and Crysis came out, I played Crysis at about 11 FPS the whole game because my computer wouldn't run it. You know I had to throw Half-Life 2 in here. It actually runs really good. All of these Source Engine games work really well on lower end hardware because it's an older engine.
Instinct was our mother when we were an infant species. Instinct coddled us and kept us safe in those hardscrabble years when we hardened our sticks and cooked our first meals above a meager fire and started at the shadows that leapt upon the cavern's walls. But inseparable from instinct is its dark twin, superstition. Instinct is inextricably bound to unreasoning impulses, and today we clearly see its
Minecraft Windows 10 Edition. This is a very well optimized game. I haven't messed around with any of the settings. Just wanted to blow up some dynamite here and there, punch some trees. We're getting an average of 54, but it will go down if we played this long enough. Some spots we're at 30, some spots we're at 60, so I'm going to go ahead and mess with the settings a little bit. So I've turned fancy leaves off, beautiful skies, smooth lighting, fancy graphics, and I've turned the rendering distance down to 6. And we can get a constant 60 out of it like this, even with dynamite blowing up. And I actually love the way this looks. It's just like the original Minecraft. They did change the look a little bit over the years. I think it looks great like this. Rocket League, pretty much forget about it. It's just using way too much RAM. In this notebook that I'm using here, we only have 2 gigabytes of RAM. So when we reach that threshold with the RAM being used because it's shared with the GPU, you'll just get a lot of stuttering because it's trying to swap out RAM for virtual memory and it just doesn't work well. The original Crysis. Somebody's going to throw it down in the comments before they even watch the video. They did in my last video on this laptop, so I wanted to test it here. Always had issues with this game and the TV I use for testing, so I had to go to window mode, but we're at 720p. We're averaging 27 FPS, but as soon as we get to the first outpost, I guarantee it's going to drop down to about 14 when there's more soldiers on screen and some explosions going on. I know I already mentioned this already, but when this game came out, I wanted to play it so bad that I went out and bought it. It would hardly run on my PC. I got about 11 FPS, and I played through the whole game.
Okay, Aztec, hang tight. Help's on the way.
Maximum speed. Energy critical.
Nomad, up here. Come on, let's get to Aztec.
Prophet, I'm not alone out here. What have you got, Aztec? KPA.
Overwatch. This is a very well optimized game, one of the best in my opinion. We just don't have enough power to push it, and mainly, we don't have enough RAM. You'll see it in just a second here. We're just going to start stuttering. RAM usage is at 1.6 gigs. Remember, we only have 2 gigabytes of RAM in this system. We need to run the game and Windows. And memory swap just isn't fast enough for something like this.
Huh?
So it's definitely not a AAA gaming powerhouse, but you can get away playing some older titles at 30 FPS 720p. And that's perfectly fine for the price. I've never been a big laptop person, I'd rather build a desktop, but I do own a nice gaming laptop and it just sits on my desk all day. I hardly ever use it because it gets hot, it's loud, and it's heavy. For the past few days since I got this little laptop, I've been using it for pretty much everything except for editing videos. If I need to check my email, if I want to surf the web, if I want to research something or play some retro games, I've been going to this thing. It's completely silent, it's light, it's got good Wi-Fi range, and the battery lasts all day. So yeah, I do think it's worth 120 bucks. I don't think it's worth any more than that. If you need a little laptop to mess around with, this is an awesome little choice for you. I'm going to leave links in the description. Really appreciate you guys watching. If there's anything else you want to see running on this thing, let me know in the comments below. And like always, thanks for watching.